Engineer He-Jin Park watched the stars from Earth's outpost Orion 12, enjoying the quiet of her night shift. The endless black canvas with its diamond-like stars always brought her peace. 6 months at this remote station had been lonely, but moments like these made it worthwhile. The alarm shattered her calm. A red light flashed across her console as the system detected an unidentified vessel entering their sector. "What now?" she muttered, moving quickly to her station. The readouts showed a ship of unknown design with rapidly failing systems. It was small, possibly a personal craft, but unlike anything in Earth's database. He-Jin activated the communication channel. "Unknown vessel, this is Orion 12 station. We detect your distress signal. Please identify." The speakers crackled with static before a voice responded, melodic and clearly non-human, with tones that seemed to layer upon themselves in impossible harmonies. "Human station. This is a private vessel. We require no assistance." He-Jin studied her readings more carefully. "Your propulsion system is failing. Without immediate repairs, you'll drift into the asteroid belt within 3 hours. That's not survivable." Silence stretched for almost a minute. "Unknown vessel. Did you copy?" "We hear you, human station." The voice sounded strained now. "We miscalculated the damage." He-Jin waited, watching the ship's trajectory on her screen. It was definitely in trouble, the engine signature showing dangerous fluctuations. Finally, the voice returned. "Very well. Permission to dock." "Granted. Follow the guidance beacon to Bay 3. He-Jin activated the station's automatic docking protocols and notified Station Commander Ta-1 of the situation. "Unauthorized aliens." "Park, you know the protocols," he replied over the intercom. "Sir, they'll die if we don't help." "Fine. But this is your responsibility. Keep them contained in the docking bay. I'll be down after I finish the supply inventory." He-Jin grabbed her toolkit and hurried to meet the mystery vessel. The ship that glided into the docking bay was surprisingly beautiful, sleek and organic in design, with a surface that seemed to ripple like water despite being clearly solid. It bore no markings or identifiers, just a seamless hull that shimmered with an inner light. The docking clamps secured the vessel as the atmosphere equalized. He-Jin checked her handheld scanner. The air inside the ship was compatible with human breathing. A good sign. She approached cautiously as a section of the hull suddenly melted away, forming a doorway. He-Jin took a step back, surprised by the technology. "Hello. I'm Engineer Park. I'm here to help." A figure emerged from the shadows of the doorway, and He-Jin felt her breath catch. Before her stood a being unlike any alien species humanity had encountered in its limited interstellar relations. The visitor stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a slender frame that moved with impossible grace. Her skin, if it could be called skin, was a deep iridescent blue that seemed to contain depths rather than simply reflect light. Elaborate markings that resembled liquid silver flowed across her face and bare arms, shifting subtly as if alive. She wore a simple but elegant garment that seemed woven from light itself. But it was the alien's eyes that truly captured He-Jin's attention. Large, almond-shaped, and filled with swirling galaxies of violet and gold. They held wisdom and age that made He-Jin feel like a child in comparison. The alien regarded He-Jin with what appeared to be a mixture of reluctance and curiosity. When she spoke, her mouth didn't move in sync with the words, as if the sound was being created through some other means. "I am Queen Neri of the Voshi Dominion," she said, her voice resonating in the air between them. "I travel discreetly for diplomatic reasons of great importance. No one can know I am here, or that I required." She paused, seeming to find the next words distasteful. "Human assistance." He-Jin blinked in surprise. She had expected perhaps a merchant or explorer, not royalty from a species humans had never even documented. She quickly bowed her head. "Your Majesty, I'm Engineer He-Jin Park. Your secret is safe with me." The Queen studied her for a long moment. "You seem Young for one entrusted with a space station. I'm not in charge, He-Jin clarified. I'm just the night shift engineer. The commander will be here soon. No, the word was sharp and commanding. No others. You alone will assist me, or I will leave immediately. He-Jin frowned. That's against our protocols. And besides, your ship won't make it far in its current condition. The Queen's markings pulsed with what He-Jin suspected was agitation. My presence here must remain absolutely confidential. The knowledge that a Voshi Queen required rescue, from humans, no less, would cause complications. He-Jin considered her options. The commander wouldn't arrive for at least 30 minutes. She could at least assess the damage before then. I'll help you, she decided. But I need to report to my superior eventually. This station has only 20 people on it, and we're 3 months from Earth. We're hardly a security risk. Queen Neri seemed to relax slightly. Very well, but only what is necessary. The less anyone knows of me, the safer for all involved. He-Jin nodded and gestured toward the ship. May I examine the propulsion system? The Queen hesitated before inclining her head. Follow me, but touch nothing without permission. As He-Jin followed the alien into the ship, she couldn't help but wonder what circumstances had brought a queen to travel alone in such a small vessel, so far from apparently friendly space. Whatever diplomatic mission had brought her here must be extraordinarily important, or secret. The interior of the ship was as remarkable as its exterior. Organic curves instead of hard angles, surfaces that responded to the Queen's touch by lighting up or opening. It felt less like machinery and more like a living thing. Beautiful, He-Jin murmured despite herself. Queen Neri glanced back, those galaxy eyes unreadable. It is merely practical. This way to the engine core. He-Jin followed, trying to memorize everything she saw. Whatever happened next, this would certainly be the most interesting night shift of her career. The engine room of the alien vessel hummed with strange energy that made He-Jin's skin tingle. Soft blue light pulsed from what appeared to be the ship's core. A sphere of swirling, liquid-like matter suspended in midair without any visible support. Tubes of light extended from it in all directions, connecting to various parts of the ship. This technology is beyond your comprehension, Queen Neri said, gesturing to the pulsing core with a hint of pride, despite their dire situation. He-Jin circled the core slowly, her engineer's mind already breaking down what she saw into recognizable patterns. The alien queen watched with what seemed like amusement as the human studied readouts on surfaces that responded to her proximity. You cannot possibly derive meaning from those displays, Neri said. They are calibrated for Voshi perception. He-Jin pointed to a section where one of the light tubes flickered erratically. The principles may be advanced, but physics is physics. This connection here, it's not holding the transfer sequence. She traced the path of energy with her finger. Something's interrupting the flow. Queen Neri stiffened. Impossible. You cannot possibly understand our quantum field manipulators. He-Jin smiled slightly. I don't need to understand everything about them. I recognize a broken circuit when I see one. She opened her toolkit and selected a small scanner. May I? The Queen hesitated, then nodded once. He-Jin held the scanner near the flickering connection. The energy signature is unstable here. Something's damaged the transfer medium. Neri moved closer, her silver markings rippling with interest. The field was compromised when we passed through an unexpected radiation belt. Our shields were not at full capacity. Were you being chased? He-Jin asked casually, continuing her scan. The Queen's eyes flashed. My reasons for traveling quickly are not your concern, human. Fair enough. He-Jin studied her readings. The good news is the core itself seems intact. It's just the distribution system that's damaged. For the next 2 hours, they worked side by side. He-Jin found herself developing an unexpected rhythm with the alien queen. Despite Neri's initial condescension, she clearly knew her ship's systems intimately. He-Jin would identify a problem area, and the queen would explain. sometimes reluctantly, how that particular component functioned. "So this converts energy directly from subspace?" He-Jin asked, pointing to a crystal-like object. "A simplified explanation, but essentially correct," Neri replied. "The resonance pattern creates a dimensional fold that allows us to harvest quantum fluctuations." He-Jin whistled. "Earth scientists have theorized about that for decades, but we haven't managed to stabilize the extraction process." "Your species is young," Neri said, though her tone held less dismissal than before. As they worked, He-Jin received 3 messages from Commander Taiwan asking about the visitor. She replied that repairs were underway and the situation was under control, carefully avoiding details about their guest's identity. The damaged section became clearer with each diagnostic test. A critical component that regulated energy flow had been completely destroyed. Without a replacement harmonizer, the ship cannot function, Neri finally admitted. "I had hoped it could be repaired, not replaced." He-Jin studied the damaged part. "Do you have spares?" "Not for this. It is grown, not manufactured." The Queen's shoulders slumped slightly, the first sign of genuine emotion He-Jin had seen from her. "I will need to send a distress signal to my people after all." "Wait," He-Jin said. "An idea forming. What if we bypass this section entirely? Create an alternative path for the energy." "With what?" "Your human technology cannot possibly handle these energy levels." He-Jin thought for a moment. "Maybe not alone. But what if we create a hybrid interface? Use your stabilizers combined with some of my station's backup power regulators." Neri's galaxy eyes narrowed. "That would never work. Our systems are fundamentally incompatible." "Are they?" "Energy is energy. Your ship converts quantum fluctuations to usable power. Our systems handle fusion energy. Different sources, but the end product is similar, controlled energy transfer. The difference in technological sophistication." "Sometimes simpler is better," He-Jin interrupted, earning a surprised look from the Queen. "Your systems are designed for maximum efficiency and optimal conditions. Mine are designed to keep working even when damaged. Less elegant, but more adaptable." Neri stared at her for a long moment. "Show me your proposal." He-Jin sketched a design on her tablet, explaining how they could create an interface between the two technologies. The Queen asked sharp questions, pointed out flaws, suggested modifications. For the first time, they were working as true collaborators rather than reluctant allies. "That might actually function," Neri finally conceded, her markings pulsing with what He-Jin now recognized as excitement. "I'll need to get some components from the station's storage. Will you be okay alone for a few minutes?" The Queen nodded. "I can begin preparing the connection points." He-Jin hurried through the station corridors, grateful that the night shift meant few people were around. She collected the parts she needed, signed them out as emergency repairs, and returned to find Neri had already opened access panels throughout the engine room. They worked for another 3 hours, fitting human technology into alien systems in ways neither was designed for. He-Jin's hands were steady even as fatigue set in, making minute adjustments as Neri monitored energy levels on her living displays. "The balance is critical," the Queen explained. "Too much variance, and the core will shut down to protect itself." "Like a circuit breaker," He-Jin nodded. "We have the same principle." As the final connection was made, He-Jin held her breath. The cobbled-together interface, part alien crystal, part earth alloy, glowed as energy began to flow through it. "Initiate test sequence," Neri instructed, her voice tense. The core's pulsing grew stronger, more regular. The blue light intensified as energy flowed through the new pathway, bypassing the damaged section entirely. For a moment, the lights flickered throughout the ship. "Power fluctuation," He-Jin said, adjusting the flow rate. She turned a dial on her makeshift regulator, and the ship stabilized. The hum of the engine grew stronger, healthier. System after system came online as power once again flowed properly throughout the vessel. Queen Neri placed her hand on a control surface. All critical systems functional. Engine operating at 87% efficiency. She turned to Hejin, her galaxy eyes wide with what looked like genuine astonishment. It worked. Hejin couldn't help but smile. It worked. The Queen moved around the engine room, checking various displays. This solution should not function. It defies our understanding of compatible technologies. Sometimes, the rules need to be broken, Hejin said, wiping sweat from her forehead. Especially in emergencies. Neri stopped her movements and turned to fully face the human. For the first time, she seemed to truly see Hejin as an individual rather than just a representative of a primitive species. You have unusual aptitude for one with such limited resources, the Queen said, her tone thoughtful. Your solution was creative in ways my engineers might not have considered. Coming from the previously dismissive Queen, this was high praise indeed. Hejin nodded in acknowledgement, trying not to show how pleased she felt. Is there anything else that needs repair before you continue your journey? She asked. Neri seemed to hesitate, studying the human with newfound curiosity. Perhaps we should run additional diagnostics before I depart, to ensure stability. Of course, Hejin replied, surprised by the Queen's change in attitude. I'd be happy to help. With the ship's critical repairs complete, Hejin's stomach rumbled loudly enough for even alien ears to notice. She had been working for nearly 10 hours straight without a break. You require sustenance, Queen Neri observed, her head tilting slightly. Hejin nodded. I should eat something. Would you like to join me? I can bring food here so you don't have to leave your ship. The Queen considered this. I am curious about human nutrition. Yes, I will observe your feeding ritual. Hejin smiled at the clinical description, but said nothing. She returned quickly with a tray of station rations, synthetic protein bars, dried fruit, and a container of hot tea. Not exactly a royal feast, Hejin apologized, setting the tray between them on a makeshift table. Neri studied the food with scientific interest. Your body requires these substances for energy conversion. Pretty much. Though station food isn't the best example of Earth cuisine. Hejin bit into a protein bar. Do the Voshi eat, or do you absorb energy differently? We consume nutrients, Neri confirmed, watching Hejin chew. Though our process is more efficient. As Hejin ate, she asked questions about the Voshi civilization, and to her surprise, the Queen began to share. Perhaps the shared hours of problem-solving had built a measure of trust, or maybe Neri simply enjoyed teaching an ignorant human about superior ways. Our primary city spans an entire continent, Neri explained, her markings shifting to create what looked like a map on her arm. The structures are grown, not built, using crystalline matrices that respond to thought. Hejin leaned forward. Your buildings are alive. Not alive as you understand it, but responsive, adaptive. The city reshapes itself according to the needs of our society. That's incredible. Hejin sipped her tea. How many Voshi are there? Our population is precisely maintained at optimal levels. 10,743,522 at last count. So few for an entire planet. Neri's eyes swirled with new patterns. Quality over quantity. Each Voshi lives approximately 1,000 of your Earth years. Some of our elders have seen the rise and fall of multiple human civilizations. Hejin nearly choked on her tea. 1,000 years. You've been watching us. We've observed humans for centuries, Neri admitted with a slight gesture that might have been the Voshi equivalent of a shrug. Your species seemed unremarkable, short-lived, prone to self-destruction, technologically stagnant for most of your history. Hejin laughed. We're scrappy, I'll give you that, but we've come pretty far in the last century. Yes, Neri acknowledged. Your recent accelerated development has been unexpected. The conversation flowed more easily as the hours passed. Hejin explained human concepts like family units and personal choice, while Neri described the Voshi's rigid social hierarchy, where each individual was bred and conditioned for specific roles from birth. "So you were born to be queen?" Hijin asked. "I was selected from among genetically suitable candidates and modified to enhance leadership traits," Neri corrected. "Royalty is not passed through biological lineage, as in your primitive monarchies." "That sounds very practical," Hijin replied diplomatically. As morning approached by station time, they had migrated to the ship's control room, where Neri was running final diagnostics on their repairs. "What I don't understand," Neri said suddenly, "is why your solution worked when our automated systems failed. Our technology is vastly superior." Hijin considered this. "Because I didn't follow the expected path. Your automated systems were probably programmed to replace the damaged part with an identical component. They couldn't conceive of a workaround. But the workaround was less efficient. Sometimes perfect is the enemy of good enough." Hijin explained. "Computers follow logic, but humans, we make intuitive leaps. We see patterns and connections that might not be obvious to an algorithm." Neri's markings pulsed thoughtfully. "This adaptability, it is perhaps a strength we have underestimated." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden blaring alarm. Hijin jumped to the nearby console. "What is it?" Neri asked, tension evident in her voice. Hijin's face grew serious as she read the alert. "An Earth military patrol vessel has entered our sector. They've detected your ship and are demanding identification." She looked up at the Queen. "Standard procedure for unregistered vessels in Earth space." "They can't know I'm here," Neri whispered, panic evident in her voice and the rapid flashing of her markings. "If word reaches the Dominion that I sought help from humans, it would create a diplomatic crisis. My mission would be compromised." Hijin understood the gravity of the situation. The Queen's earlier explanation of Voshi politics had made it clear that factions within their government opposed any contact with lesser species. The communication system crackled. "Orion 12, this is EDF Vigilant. You are harboring an unidentified vessel. Explain immediately, or we will board and inspect." Hijin took a deep breath and hit the response button. "This is Engineer Park of Orion 12. The vessel is under my protection for authorized research purposes. Stand down." Neri's eyes widened at the human's boldness. "Engineer Park, we have no record of authorized alien research at your station," the military officer replied, his voice hard. "Check security clearance protocol Omega-7, Hijin said confidently. "This is a special project under Section Director Kim's authority. The paperwork was filed last month." There was a long pause. "We have no record." "Then your records are incomplete," Hijin interrupted. "I suggest you contact Earth Command directly if you wish to interrupt sensitive research. I'm sure Director Kim would be happy to explain the situation to your superiors. Shall I patch you through to her office?" Another long pause followed. Hijin held her breath. There was no Director Kim, no special project, no security clearance. She was bluffing completely. "That won't be necessary," the officer finally responded, his tone noticeably less certain. "We'll continue our patrol, but expect a follow-up from Command, Engineer Park." "I look forward to it," Hijin replied smoothly. Orion 12 out. She closed the channel and let out a long, shaky breath. Neri stared at her. "You lied to your own military." "I did," Hijin agreed, suddenly realizing the seriousness of what she'd done. "That's probably going to cause me some problems later. You risk your position. For me." The Queen seemed genuinely confused. "Why would you do this?" Hijin thought for a moment. "Because it was the right thing to do. You came here in peace, in need of help. Exposing you would have caused problems for both our peoples. But you have no obligation to me. We are not even of the same species." "Kindness doesn't stop at species boundaries," Hijin said simply. "At least, it shouldn't." Neri studied the human with new intensity, her galaxy eyes swirling with complex emotions. He-Jin couldn't begin to interpret. In Voshi society, the queen finally said, actions are calculated based on advantage and protocol. Individuals do not risk themselves for strangers without clear benefit. That sounds logical, He-Jin admitted. But humans aren't always logical. No, Neri agreed softly. You are not. And perhaps that is not entirely a weakness, as we have believed. The queen turned away, moving toward the ship's controls. We should complete the final checks quickly. I must leave before your military returns with more questions. He-Jin nodded, but noticed the queen's markings had formed new patterns, ones she hadn't seen before. Something had changed in their relationship, though He-Jin wasn't sure exactly what. With repairs complete and the military patrol gone, the time for departure had come. He-Jin helped Queen Neri run the final system checks, confirming that their makeshift solution continued to function properly. Power levels stable at 89%, He-Jin reported, checking readings on her tablet. Navigation and life support fully operational. Your ship is ready to fly, Your Majesty. Neri glided around the control room, her movements fluid and graceful as she touched various control surfaces. The ship responded to her with soft pulses of blue light. Yes, the Queen confirmed. All systems appear functional. She paused, her silver markings rippling in a pattern He-Jin had come to recognize as thoughtfulness. The solution is inelegant by Voshi standards, but effective. I believe it will hold until I reach my destination. He-Jin closed her toolkit and straightened up. Well, it was an honor to help you, Queen Neri. I hope your diplomatic mission goes well. The Queen turned to face He-Jin fully, her galaxy eyes intense. I'm in your debt, Engineer Park. Just doing my job, He-Jin replied with a small smile. Any decent engineer would have done the same. No, the Queen said firmly, moving closer. You've done far more than repair a ship. You've shown me something I did not expect to find among humans. He-Jin waited, curious about what the alien monarch meant. Neri seemed to be weighing her next words carefully. I must tell you something. My journey wasn't merely diplomatic as I led you to believe. Her markings darkened slightly. The Voshi face extinction from a stellar anomaly our scientists cannot solve. A stellar anomaly? He-Jin asked, alarmed by this revelation. What kind? Our sun has developed unusual activity patterns, energy fluctuations unlike anything in our recorded history. The Queen's voice remained controlled, but He-Jin could sense her worry. Our scientists project catastrophic solar flares within 3 years that will overwhelm our planetary defenses. I'm sorry to hear that, He-Jin said, genuinely concerned. Have your people considered evacuation? The Voshi have lived on our homeworld for over 50,000 years. We have no colonies, no alternative habitats. Neri's markings shifted to a pattern He-Jin hadn't seen before. Our civilization is specialized, highly adapted to our world. So you're looking for solutions to shield your planet? Yes, I have been traveling to various advanced civilizations, seeking technical knowledge that might help us develop new defenses. The Queen's eyes swirled with complex emotions, but I have found a recurring problem. What's that? Our minds are structured for precision, not adaptation. We excel at perfecting known paths, but struggle to forge new ones. Neri gestured toward the repaired engine. Your solution to my ship's damage exemplifies what we lack. You saw possibilities where our systems saw only failure. He-Jin absorbed this information, beginning to understand. So your diplomatic mission was to find allies with different cognitive approaches, Neri confirmed. Species whose minds work differently than ours. The Queen straightened her shoulders, her posture becoming formal. I wish to propose an alliance, beginning with you. Me? He-Jin blinked in surprise. Become my technical advisor. My people need human ingenuity. Neri's voice lowered to a near whisper. I've broken our laws by accepting outside help. Some will see this as weakness, but I believe it is necessary for our survival. Jin felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a job offer. It was potentially a historic first step between two civilizations. I don't know what to say, she stammered. I'm just a station engineer. Surely Earth has better candidates, scientists with advanced degrees, specialists in solar physics. Perhaps, Neri interrupted. But I have seen you work. I have observed your mind. You possess the exact quality we need. The ability to make unexpected connections, to step outside established patterns. Jin paced the small control room, trying to process this sudden offer. What exactly would this involve? Would I go to your homeworld? Yes. You would work with our science council, bringing your human perspective to our crisis. Neri watched her carefully. You would be the first human to see the Voshi homeworld, the first to learn our technologies directly. Would I ever return to Earth? Of course. You would serve as liaison between our worlds. In fact, I hope you would be the first of many humans to share knowledge with us. The Queen's markings shifted to a brighter pattern. This crisis may be the catalyst for a beneficial exchange between our species. Jin thought of her life on Earth. A small apartment in Seoul, parents who rarely called, a job that kept her isolated on remote stations. She had always dreamed of something more meaningful. I would need to speak with Earth authorities, she said slowly. This kind of arrangement would require official approval. Understandable. I can wait while you consult your superiors. Jin considered the weight of the offer. My loyalty is to Earth. I would need assurances that any technology or knowledge shared would benefit humanity as well. Neri nodded. I understand. This alliance would benefit both our worlds. The Queen moved to a control panel and pressed her hand against it. A small compartment opened, revealing a crystal similar to those in the ship's engine but smaller. This contains basic information about our civilization and the nature of our crisis, Neri explained, extending it toward Jin. Share it with your leaders as evidence of my sincerity. Jin took the crystal carefully. It felt warm in her hand, almost alive. How do I access the information? Any standard computer can interface with it. The crystal will adapt to your technology. Neri's markings pulsed gently. It also contains my formal request for alliance, and specifically for you to return with me. Jin stared at the crystal, then back at the Queen. You planned this all along, didn't you? Even before your ship was damaged. Neri's markings flickered in what might have been embarrassment. The damage was real. But yes, I had hoped to make contact with humans. The accident merely accelerated my timeline. So our meeting wasn't entirely chance. The universe rarely operates on pure chance, Engineer Park. Neri's eyes swirled with something like amusement. Patterns exist whether we recognize them or not. Jin clutched the crystal, feeling the weight of responsibility it represented. I'll need to speak with my commander immediately, and then Earth Central. How long will your decision process take? I don't know. Hours? Days? This isn't something we have protocols for. Neri nodded. I will wait in orbit for 3 of your Earth days. After that, I must continue my journey regardless of your decision. Jin took a deep breath. 3 days. I'll do my best to have an answer by then. As she prepared to leave the ship, Jin turned back to the alien Queen. Why me? Out of all the humans you could have chosen. Neri's markings formed a pattern Jin hadn't seen before, something almost warm. Because you helped me without calculation of personal benefit. Because you saw solutions where my people would see only problems. Because you risked yourself for a stranger. She paused. These qualities may be what saved my world. Jin nodded, suddenly understanding the significance of what was happening. This wasn't just about repairing a ship anymore. This was about building a bridge between 2 civilizations, one that might save both. I'll return with an answer as soon as I can, she promised, and stepped through the airlock, the crystal warm in her hand. The Earth Council chamber fell silent as the final vote was tallied. Jin stood at the center of the circular room, trying to keep her face neutral despite her racing art. For 3 days, she had explained, argued, and pleaded her case to increasingly high-ranking officials. Engineer Park, the council president announced, by unanimous decision, your position as technical advisor to the Voshi Dominion is approved. This council recognizes the unprecedented opportunity for humanity represented by this alliance. Relief washed over He-Jin. She bowed deeply to the assembled leaders. Thank you for your trust. I won't let Earth down. Within hours, she had packed her few belongings and reported to the orbital platform where Queen Neri's ship waited. The Queen greeted her with a formal gesture, silver markings rippling with what He-Jin now recognized as satisfaction. Your leaders were wise to accept, Neri said as they prepared for departure. They had many questions, He-Jin admitted, but the information in your crystal convinced them of the potential benefits. The journey to the Voshi homeworld took 17 Earth days. He-Jin spent the time learning the basics of the Voshi language and studying their approach to physics. The concepts were challenging, built on mathematical principles that sometimes contradicted what she had learned, but He-Jin's engineer's mind adapted quickly. As they entered the Voshi star system, Neri called He-Jin to the control room. Through the view screen, He-Jin saw a stunning sight. A blue-green planet orbited by 3 moons of different sizes, all glimmering against the vast blackness of space. Voshi, the Queen said simply, our home for 50,000 years. But He-Jin's attention was drawn to the star at the center of the system. Even to her untrained eye, something seemed wrong. The star pulsed unevenly, with dark patches swirling across its surface. Is that the anomaly? She asked. Neri nodded. The disturbances grow worse each day. Our scientists predict a catastrophic flare within 2 years. As they approached the planet, Queen Neri turned to He-Jin, her galaxy eyes serious. Many will oppose your presence. Our society doesn't embrace change easily. He-Jin nodded. Few societies do. She had not fully appreciated the Queen's warning until they landed. The spaceport was empty except for a small delegation of Voshi officials, their markings pulsing with clear disapproval. They spoke rapidly in their native language, their tones sharp. What are they saying? He-Jin whispered. Nothing worth translating, Neri replied coldly. The Queen addressed the delegation in a commanding voice that required no translation. She was not asking permission, but informing them of her decision. The royal palace was unlike any building He-Jin had seen. A massive structure of living crystal that shifted subtly as they walked through it, opening passages and closing others. The crystal hummed with energy that resonated with something deep inside her. The following day, He-Jin faced the royal court. Dozens of Voshi nobles and scientists watched her with those unsettling galaxy eyes, their markings flickering with emotions she couldn't read. Scientific Minister Tahoe, a tall Voshi with jagged markings, openly challenged her credentials. This human comes from a species that only recently discovered atomic energy. What could she possibly offer that our greatest minds cannot? Security Commander Jisoo, shorter but more intimidating with her military bearing, went further. This could be a ploy. The human might be a spy, sent to steal our technology while our defenses are compromised. He-Jin listened to the translation provided by a small device Neri had given her. She waited until the accusations stopped before stepping forward. I understand your concerns, she said simply. I would feel the same if our positions were reversed. I don't ask for your trust yet, only the chance to earn it. Queen Neri stood. Engineer Park has my confidence. That should be sufficient for this court. For 2 months, He-Jin worked with Voshi scientists, studying their data on the solar anomaly. Their research was thorough, their mathematics perfect, and completely unable to solve the problem. They had explored every known solution with precision. He-Jin spent her nights in her crystal quarters, thinking outside those known solutions. One evening, while watching the largest moon rise through her window, an idea struck her. The next day, she requested a meeting with the Science Council. Using simple diagrams, she explained her concept, a creative application combining Voshi quantum technology with Earth's experimental gravitational anchors. Your stabilizers can manipulate quantum fields with incredible precision, she explained. Earth has been developing technology to create small, controlled gravitational fields. If we combine them, Minister Tahoe scoffed. Primitive gravitational technology cannot possibly interface with our quantum systems. He-Jin smiled. That's what Queen Neri said about my repair to her ship. Yet here she is, safely returned. The minister fell silent. 4 more months of intense work followed. He-Jin coordinated with Earth scientists who shipped prototypes of the gravitational anchors. Voshi engineers, initially resistant, gradually began to contribute valuable insights as they saw He-Jin's plan take shape. Commander Jisoo, once her harshest critic, proved to be a crucial ally in organizing the massive project. You fight well for your ideas, the commander told her one day. A warrior's spirit in an engineer's mind. The day of activation arrived too soon. The defense system, a network of 27 satellites placed strategically around the star, was ready but untested. He-Jin stood in the control center beside Queen Neri, acutely aware that the fate of an entire civilization might rest on her idea. Begin sequence, Neri ordered. The satellites activated one by one, each creating a precise gravitational field that interacted with the quantum stabilizers. On the main screen, they watched as the fields merged, forming an invisible net around the troubled areas of the star. For a terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the dark patches on the star's surface began to dissipate. The irregular pulsing steadied. The violent energy that had threatened to erupt in a civilization-ending flare was being channeled, controlled, stabilized. It's working, Minister Tahoe whispered, his markings bright with astonishment. 6 months after He-Jin's arrival, she stood beside Queen Neri on a crystal balcony overlooking the Voshi capital. Below them, the city stretched to the horizon, its towers shifting in the evening light like a living thing. Above, the star shone with steady, healthy light, its potential for destruction now neutralized. You've saved our world, Neri said, her usually formal demeanor softened. Not me, He-Jin replied, shaking her head. This is what happens when our peoples work together. Voshi precision with human creativity. It's a powerful combination. The queen nodded, her markings forming a pattern that He-Jin now recognized as profound respect. The beginning of a new era for both our kinds. That evening, as He-Jin looked out over the crystal spires of the Voshi capital, now safe from destruction, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The path that had brought her here, a remote station, a damaged ship, a desperate queen, seemed almost designed, as if the universe itself had engineered their meeting. Sometimes, she thought, the universe's greatest gifts came wrapped in the guise of broken spaceships and impossible problems. The end.